Imagine a world where the sun paints the horizon with amber and rose hues, streaming light on coasts, so immaculate they glitter like powdered sugar beneath your toes. Turquoise waves whisper secrets to the sand, while neon pink spoonbills fly above wild marshes where alligators serve as timeless sentinels. Welcome to Florida, a patchwork of breathtaking contrasts and raw beauty. Rockets scorch tracks over hurricane-prone skies, and peaceful retiree mornings unfold just a heartbeat away from Miami's electrifying nightlife. The Sunshine State, which stretches 500 miles from the Panhandle's moss-veiled oaks to the Keys' coral worlds, is more than just a snapshot. It is a living enigma. Ghost orchids bloom silently in its murky bogs, while coastal villages exchange pirate stories as easily as a morning stroll. Florida beckons as a universe apart, where every turn exposes a marvel and every moment is on the verge of astonishment. Florida's mysteries are profound. Did you know it is the only state with both a tropical climate and a coral reef ecosystem? Or that beneath its surface lurks a labyrinth of over 1,000 freshwater springs pouring crystal clear water at a year-round temperature of 72 degrees? Its history is equally as complicated. Spanish conquistadors landed 500 years ago, but indigenous tribes like the Seminole continue to exist, undefeated in conflicts against the United States government. Fast forward to the 20th century, when railroad tycoons and dreamers like Walt Disney built empires out of swampland, and Cuban refugees transformed Miami into a bilingual hub. But Florida's magic isn't limited to its extremes. It also exists in the moments in between. The scent of orange flowers combined with sea air on a Gulf Coast breeze. The excitement of seeing a manatee float past your kayak in Silver Springs. The flavor of a smoky, slow-cooked pork sandwich at a Tampa fonda, or the first bite of key lime pie so acidic that your jaw tingles. It's a state where every sunset feels like a private display and every back road tells a story. Buckle up. We're diving past the palm trees and parking lot parrots to find the heart of a place that's wilder, stranger, and more wondrous than you could have imagined. Long before rockets pierced Florida's skies, this country was a seething, primordial soup, governed by mega sharks, mastodons, and tribes that crafted canoes out of cypress trees. Florida's tale begins not with palm trees, but with a 450-mile limestone spine that progressively eroded into existence over millions of years. This porous bedrock became the state's hidden weapon, a sponge that traps rainwater, nourishing the springs and marshes that supported indigenous cultures such as the Timucua, who painted their bodies with constellations, and the Calusa, the Shell People, who created islands out of oyster shells. Then came the Spanish. In 1513, Juan Ponce de Leon went ashore near present-day St. Augustine in search of the Fountain of Youth. Instead, he discovered mosquitoes, hostile tribes, and a perilous shoreline that sunk over 2,000 ships, earning Florida the label Shipwreck Capital of the Americas. For generations, Florida was considered a marshy afterthought. Spain, Britain, and the United States fought over it like children swapping damp baseball cards until 1845, when it became the 27th state. However, the real shift began with oil barons and visionaries. In the 1880s, Henry Flagler, a Rockefeller crony, intended to construct a railway to paradise. Workers braved hurricanes, crocodiles, and quicksand to dig lines through the Everglades, connecting marshy outposts to gleaming coastal cities. Flagler's folly became Florida's lifeline, attracting northerners to citrus groves and beachside hotels. Then came the 20th century's riskiest gamble, draining the Everglades. Developers offered naive purchasers tracts of reclaimed marsh, promising them a tropical heaven. Some got citrus plantations while others got flooded basements. However, Florida's most pivotal moment occurred in the 1960s, when swampland collided with the space race. Cape Canaveral, a mosquito-infested strip of sand, was picked as NASA's launch site for one reason: its proximity to the equator. The same limestone that previously filtered water now absorbs the earth-shaking vibrations of Saturn V rockets. Today, the Space Coast's skyline is a bizarre blend of rocket gantries and pelicans with engineers in khakis sharing parking lots with alligator wranglers. From Temecula shell mounds to Apollo 11's launch pad, Florida's history is one of daring and adaptation. It's a region where wetlands gave birth to towns, and where the same storms that devastate also replenish, carving rivers and sprinkling seeds, reminding everyone that nature always has the final say. Consider a river 60 miles wide but just 6 inches deep, a sluggish, silent sheet of water meandering south across 1.5 million acres of sawgrass grasslands, cypress domes, and mangrove labyrinths. This is the Everglades, a UNESCO World Heritage Site often known as the liquid heart of Florida. It's more than just a swamp. It's a live, breathing ecosystem in which alligators carve ponds into fish nurseries, and rare ghost orchids cling to trees like pale phantoms. The glades formed 5,000 years ago, when rising seas trapped freshwater atop limestone, resulting in a shallow, sunny superhighway for life. The Seminole and Miccosukee tribes called it Pahaioke, or grassy water, and lived in peace with its rhythms, until settlers arrived and dismissed it as a worthless bog. Enter Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. In 1947, the writer-turned-activist wrote The Everglades, River of Grass, which reframed the region as a vital ecosystem rather than a wasteland. Her struggle helped establish Everglades National Park, but the war had really just begun. By the 20th century, half of the glades had been drained for farmland in suburbia, interrupting the flow of water and threatening animals such as the Florida panther, of which fewer than 200 remain. But the glades fight back. During droughts, alligators build gator holes to create havens for turtles and herons. Apple snails lay pink eggs on stalks to feed rare snail kites. Even hurricanes play a part, dispersing seeds and creating new pathways. Today, the Everglades is a hauntingly beautiful area with tremendous stakes. Airboats skid across wetlands where ospreys dive for base, while biologists track invasive pythons, some 18 feet long, introduced into the ecosystem through pet trade errors. Visitors can paddle through mangrove tunnels where manatees glide through tannin-stained waters, or stroll the Anhinga Trail, where purple gallinalules tiptoe on lily pads like living jewels. At night, the sky is filled with stars, unhindered by city lights, and barred owls shriek through the darkness. The Everglades not only sustains, but also defines Florida. Its water quenches the hunger of 8 million people, while its marshes protect Miami from storm surges. But this river is delicate. Restoration initiatives seek to erase decades of damage by reconnecting streams and replumbing the natural flow. According to a Miccosukee elder, the land remembers. If you listen, it will show you how to recover. From here, we float south, where the Everglades freshwater kisses salt, and a series of coral islands dangles like a jeweled necklace in the turquoise unknown. The instant your tires hit the Overseas Highway, a 113-mile ribbon of concrete bridges tying together 42 islands like pearls on a string, reality alters. Palm trees sway amid reggae sounds, license plates boast Conch Republic pride, and the air smells of salt, sunburn, and slow-roasted hog. Welcome to the Florida Keys, where the continental U.S. fades into a Caribbean daydream, where island time isn't a cliché, it's law. This network of coral and limestone began building 125,000 years ago, but its modern legend started with pirates, wreckers, and a railroad tycoon's failed dream. Key West, the sassy southernmost point, sets the tone. Here, roosters strut past pastel Victorian mansions, Hemingway's six-toed cat descendants slumber in museum gardens, and sunset celebrations at Mallory Square feature fire jugglers and tequila carts. But the Keys' soul is located offshore. Dive the USS Spiegel Grove, a sunken battleship converted into an artificial reef filled with barracuda, or snorkel Molasses Reef, where brain coral the size of Volkswagens anchors a technicolor world of angelfish and sea turtles. For the ultimate thrill, brave the Hell's Aquarium currents of Looe Key, where divers claim to have seen mermaids, or at least very confused manatees. The Keys' magic, however, lies not only in their beauty, but also in their defiance. When the U.S. Border Patrol blocked the overseas highway in 1982, the villagers declared the Conch Republic and attacked a Navy ship with stale bread. Today, same dissident attitude can be found in fish shacks like Hogfish Bar and Grill, where fishermen bring their catch straight to the fryer, and at No Name Pub, a big Pine Key staple covered in dollar bills left by drunks and dreamers. However, paradise comes with a price. Rising seas and coral bleaching endanger the Keys' survival, prompting risky initiatives such as the world's first underwater coral nursery. Meanwhile, dog-sized fawns known as key deer run through backyards on Big Pine Key, feasting on bougainvillea blooms. As the sun sets below the horizon, bathing the Gulf in molten gold, you'll realize the Keys are more than just a destination. They're a state of mind, a reminder that life is better with lime juice and a dash of danger, and that sometimes the greatest way to find yourself is to get blissfully lost at mile zero. When you walk into Little Havana in Miami on a Sunday morning, you can hear the dominoes hitting the tables at Maximo Gomez Park, smell the coffee being brewed in stainless steel pots, and taste pastelitos de guayaba that are so thin they break like sugar glass. It's not Cuba, it's Florida, where different cultures meet, mix, and change every day. In Little Port-au-Prince, Haitian drum groups beat. In Tarpon Springs, Greek sponge divers still catch fish in the Gulf. And in the Florida Keys, the children and grandchildren of Bahamian settlers from the 1800s fry conch fritters. The Seminole tribe is the only Native American group that the U.S. never officially took over. They still have neon-lit casinos and keep old customs alive, like alligator wrestling and patchwork sewing. Florida's cultural magic started with its location on a peninsula that is brushed by Caribbean currents and southern drawls. Spanish royal buildings and hipster coffee shops can be found next to each other in St. Augustine, the oldest city in the United States. Ybor City in Tampa was once known as the cigar capital of the world. It is still haunted by the footsteps of Italian and Cuban immigrants who made millions of cigars in brick buildings that are now home to craft breweries. On the other hand, the redneck Riviera in the Panhandle serves grits and Gulf shrimp with honky-tonk blues. But Florida's real magic is in its events, which are spontaneous displays of love and pride. In March, the streets of Miami become a 23-block salsa party for the Calle Ocho event. In Sarasota, the medieval fair crowns jesters and jousters under live oaks. The Florida Folk Festival in White Springs brings back old work songs and liquor stories. The Worm Grunton Festival in the tiny town of Soap Choppy honors the humble earthworm. The ground itself tells stories. Archaeologists found the remains of America's first free black settlement at Fort Mose. It was started in 1738 by slaves who fled. Of course, everyone in Florida speaks the same language: food. Mayport prawns are fried in fish camps in Jacksonville that have been around for generations, and craft bourbon is served with Vietnamese PAO in Sanford's Hooch area. The rivalry between Tampa and Miami over the Cuban sandwich is as fierce as any sports competition. It is made of crispy bread with roast pork, gammon, pickles, and mustard. And don't forget the state's famous foods, like key lime pie, which was made from a cook's extra limes and condensed milk, and the controversial gator tail, which tastes like chicken's swampy cousin. But Florida's culture isn't stuck in the past. In Miami's Wynwood Walls, concrete is turned into paintings that look great on Instagram. In St. Petersburg, the Dali Museum bends reality next to a skate park on the water. Diversity isn't just a buzzword in Florida, as shown by the Haitian Rara parades and the Bike Week Roar. When the sun goes down on this cultural festival, we go inland where freshwater springs come up from old mines, providing a cool contrast to Florida's fiery spirit. As you jump into the water 30 feet below, the sunshine breaks up into liquid diamonds as you fall through a canopy of maple and cypress trees. There is a secret network of over 1,000 aquifers in Florida that leak 8 billion gallons of water daily from old limestone. The state's freshwater springs are like portals to another world. There's more to this than just water. It's a time machine. Every drop of water in these 72-degree pools comes from rain that fell during the Roman Empire and has been passed through rocks for thousands of years. The springs gave rise to civilizations. A glass-bottom boat can go over Native American dugout canoes that have been kept in the silt at Silver Springs. Modern divers can also explore underwater caves that are decorated with mastodon bones. These places are going away, though. Decades of pumping and pollution have turned some once gushing springs into algae-filled ghosts. To fight this problem, locals are using artificial reefs and spring shed protections. These springs feed rivers that are very important to Florida. Songs have been written about the Suwannee River, which cuts through limestone cliffs where rare ghost orchids grow. Tubers slide down the Itchitucknee while avoiding river otters and great blue herons. The tea-colored currents of the Withlacoochee hide prehistoric garfish. Next is Weeki Wachee, a spring that is so clean that it inspired a story about a mermaid. Since 1947, dancers with shimmering tails have swum with turtles in the 74-degree water, which is a mix of silly and amazing nature. Manatees, though, are the real stars. In the winter, hundreds of them come to Crystal River, where their whiskered faces stick out above the steamy air, stunning snorkelers who are there to watch. The rivers in Florida are also battlegrounds. Divers once found the head of a mastodon with a spear tip stuck in one of its bones at Wakulla Springs. This shows that people have used these waters for 14,000 years. It is now a race between scientists to map underwater caves before they are destroyed by development, and artists like photographer John Moran record their fragile beauty. Eco-tours teach people how to swim quietly, past limpkins and river cooters on the Rainbow River, showing that tourism can protect instead of steal. As we come up from these clear depths, Florida's shoreline calls to us, a place where salt and sand work together to make beaches that are out of this world. It's a 1,350-mile dance between sand and sea, with barrier islands that rise and fall with the tides and beaches that turn pink, gold, or quartz white, based on what the Earth's geology decided back millions of years ago. These beaches are more than just pretty pictures on a postcard. They are living ecosystems where dunes move inland like slow-motion waves, and sea turtles, older than your grandparents, come ashore at night to lay their eggs. The story starts with sand, which shows that not all grains are the same. The sugar-white quartz on the beaches in the Panhandle near Destin sparkles like snow. It was worn down from the Appalachians thousands of years ago. The coast of Sanibel Island is full of shells. It's a collector's paradise. And the Sanibel Stoop is the pose that all treasure hunters use. Also, race cars used to drive on Daytona's hard-packed sands. The tire marks they left behind were washed away by the Atlantic waves, but will live on in Speedway history. Florida's first line of defense against storms are the barrier islands, which are amazing examples of strength. Take Captiva, which is full of shells and was cut off from Sanibel by a storm in 1921, or Cape Canaveral, which is always changing and where rockets take off from beaches where sea oats sway. These islands are like life rafts for endangered species. The dunes on Anastasia Island are home to beach mice that are so rare that they are called ghosts of the dunes. Brown pelicans live in colonies on Pelican Island, which was America's first wildlife haven in 1903. But people have also left their mark. The 1874 lighthouse in St. Augustine still shines over the Coquina shores, and the pastels in Miami Beach's Art Deco district stand out against the blue water. It's a piece of 1930s glamour that's been turned into a neon-lit playground. Beach life in Florida is more than just tanning and building sand castles. Here, you have to stay alive. Volunteers walk along dark beaches every summer to keep loggerhead turtle nests safe from random lights that could confuse hatchlings. Mangroves, which are like superheroes in saltwater, have twisted roots that run along the Gulf and protect young fish from storms. On the Atlantic side, near Fort Lauderdale, coral reefs grow and thrive. These are the only living barrier reefs in the continental U.S. Parrotfish eat rocks to make sand, finishing a cycle that has been going on for thousands of years. The heat is still there, though. Historic places like Hemingway's home in Key West are being damaged by rising seas, and king tides flood the streets of Miami. As a result, communities come up with new ideas. For example, living shorelines. Replace concrete seawalls with oysters and spartina grass to protect beaches that are washing away. As the sun goes down and Copper State casts its shade over the Gulf, we move inland where cities beat to a beat as strong as any ocean current. Florida's cities are ecosystems as intricate as its coral reefs, a tangle of ambition, nostalgia, and reinvention where glass skyscrapers sprout beside 16th century forts and startup hubs share zip codes with salsa clubs. Forget concrete jungles. This is where urban planning meets palm trees, and every metropolis has a split personality. Take Miami. By day, it's a Deco-era diva, her pastel lifeguard stands and little Havana domino parks bathed in golden light. By night, she's a neon-glazed temptress, with rooftop bars shaking to Afro-Cuban beats and Wynwood street art glowing under UV lights. But beyond the postcard skyline lies a bilingual business powerhouse, the capital of Latin America, where billion-dollar ports rub shoulders with coral-restoring cement startups. Meanwhile, in Orlando, Cinderella's castle isn't the only magic. Beyond Disney's fireworks, a $75 billion tech corridor dubbed Silicon Beach thrives, fueled by simulation labs training NASA astronauts and VR pioneers crafting virtual worlds. Yet the city clings to its quirky roots. Diner en Blanc parties erupt in citrus groves, and gator-themed mini-golf courses sit unironically beside fusion taco trucks. Up north, Jacksonville, the largest city by landmass in the continental U.S., marries southern charm with surf culture. Here, naval ships glide down the St. Johns River, while cyclists race across bridges taller than some Appalachian peaks. Tampa and St. Petersburg offer a study in contrast. Tampa's Ybor City, once the world's cigar capital, now buzzes with craft breweries and brick factories, where rollers once hand-rolled tobacco. Across the bay, St. Pete's downtown, a kaleidoscope of murals and Michelin-starred eateries, boasts the Dali Museum, its glass enigma dome reflecting both avant-garde art and skateboarders grinding waterfront rails. Even the state capital, Tallahassee, defies expectations. A college town where politicos draft bills in shadow of live oak canopies and underground jazz bars thrive in repurposed gas stations. But Florida's urban tapestry isn't just skyscrapers and startups. In St. Augustine, the nation's oldest street, Aviles whispers Spanish colonial secrets through coquina stone walls, while hipster coffee shops sling lavender lattes. Sarasota's Ringling Museum of Art presides over a circus legacy, its rose gardens framing trapeze classes for daring retirees. And in Fort Lauderdale, once a spring break mecca, gondolas now drift along Venetian-inspired canals past fusion sushi bars. Challenges simmer beneath the sunshine. Rising seas threaten Miami's waterfront condos, prompting architects to design floating homes. In rapidly growing Orlando, affordable housing battles, theme parks sprawl. Yet cities adapt. Tampa's streetcar wires power eco-friendly rides, and Gainesville's Innovation District turns swamp algae into jet fuel. As twilight paints downtowns in tangerine and violet, Florida's cities reveal their truest selves, not just hubs of hustle, but living laboratories where the future is forged between beachside boardrooms and taco trucks at midnight. When Florida's sun sinks below the horizon, the state sheds its sunscreen and sunglasses persona, revealing a nocturnal alter ego where rooftop bars hum with synthwave beats, bioluminescent lagoons glow like alien galaxies, and ghost tours whisper tales of pirates and phantom trains. This is Florida after dark, a realm where the party never stops. But the magic isn't always neon lit. Let's start in Miami, where Ocean Drive's Art Deco facades ignite in electric hues and salsa clubs in Little Havana sweat until 5 a.m. DJs spin Afro-Cuban remixes under palm trees strung with fairy lights, while drag queens at Twist nightclub serve sequined satire to crowds sipping lychee martinis. But Miami's nightlife isn't all flash. Tucked behind an unmarked door in Wynwood, the speakeasy-style Blackbird Ordinary crafts cocktails with smoked rosemary, and Little Haiti's Club La Niapa thrums with compa rhythms under a ceiling strung with Haitian flags. Venture beyond the cities, and the night transforms. On Florida's Space Coast, bioluminescent tours launch kayaks into Indian River Lagoon, where every paddle stroke ignites the water with ethereal blue sparks. Microscopic plankton putting on a light show, rivaling the stars above. In the Everglades, night safaris reveal another world. Alligator eyes glowing red in flashlight beams, barred owls swooping silently, and the Milky Way arching over sawgrass prairies like a diamond spill. Even the Keys have secrets after sunset. Join a ghost shrimp wade in Key West's shallows, where guides net glowing critters that sparkle like underwater fireflies. But Florida's nights aren't just for thrill seekers. In St. Augustine, lantern-lit ghost tours wind through cobblestone streets, recounting tales of a 16th century Spanish soldier's restless spirit haunting the Castillo de San Marcos. Tampa's Skipper's Smokehouse swaps daytime oyster bars for nighttime blues, jams under sprawling oaks, while Pensacola's Floribama Lounge, straddling the Florida-Alabama line, hosts mullet tosses and live country tunes in a glorified shack where boots stick to the floor. For the truly curious, Florida's darkness hides oddities. Near Ochapi, the Skunk Ape Research Headquarters, a roadside trailer, sells Bigfoot merch by day, but morphs into a campfire storytelling hub by night. In Casadaga, the psychic capital of the South, mediums offer midnight seances in Victorian cottages. And at Gainesville's Satchel's Pizza, diners eat deep dish in a salvaged VW van while a jukebox blares 70s rock under strings of Christmas lights. Yet Florida's night pulse also faces threats. Light pollution drowns out sea turtle hatchlings' moon-guided journeys, prompting beach towns to enforce lights-out ordinances. Meanwhile, climate change warms waters, disrupting bioluminescent blooms. Still, Floridians adapt, hosting UV-lit raves to protect turtles or launching dark sky kayak tours. As dawn tinges the horizon peach, the night's secrets retreat, but not before leaving a lingering thrill. Because in Florida, the dark doesn't end the day. It unlocks a parallel world where the extraordinary feels ordinary, and even the shadows have stories to tell. Florida doesn't just end, it lingers, like salt on your skin after a Gulf Coast plunge or the echo of a street drummer's beat in Miami's alleys. It sticks with you. We've journeyed from primordial springs to star-flecked beaches, through neon-lit cities and moonlit swamps. Yet the true magic of the Sunshine State isn't in any single place. It's in the tension between opposites, the raw and the refined, the wild and the wired, the sacred and the surreal. Here, Spanish moss drapes over quantum computing labs, and rocket launches share headlines with manatee rescues. Florida challenges you to redefine paradise. It's not just palm-fringed coasts, but the resilience of a cypress knee rising from floodwaters. Not just Hemingway's Key West, but the Haitian baker in Little Port-au-Prince, kneading dough before dawn. It's the thrill of a bioluminescent kayak glide under a meteor shower, and the humility of watching a loggerhead turtle, older than your grandparents, heave herself onto a beach to nest. This is a land where the past is never buried. It's alive in Seminole patchwork designs, St. Augustine's coquina walls, and the whispers of shipwrecked gold still luring divers. But Florida is also a mirror. Its story of boom and bust, of conquest and coexistence, reflects our own choices. Will we protect the springs that quench cities and cradle manatees? Celebrate cultures that turn grit into grace? Forge futures where rockets and reefs share the same sky? The answers ripple far beyond its borders. So let the sunset over Naples Pier be your farewell postcard. Let the taste of a key lime pie, tart and sweet, like Florida itself, linger on your tongue. And remember, this isn't a state you simply visit. It's one that changes you. A place where every mangrove root, every coral polyp, every immigrant's dream, and every stargazer's sigh whispers the same truth, that wonder isn't found in perfection, but in the messy, magnificent dance of survival. Florida leaves you with a question. What will you do to keep it wild?